FlutterFlow just released a big update to their looping feature. No more page or app state variables, just to update a few records. In this video, here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll go over the two types of loops that FlutterFlow now supports. Then, we'll break down how each one works at a high level and introduce the real-life examples that we'll build together. After that, we'll quickly discuss some of the common mistakes to avoid so you don't accidentally crash your back or front end. And finally, we'll build both of these examples together live in FlutterFlow. So let's start with the first type of loop, while condition loops. These loops keep running as long as a condition is true. They're great when you want to wait for something to happen in real life, like a location change or network status change. Once that condition turns false, the loop exits automatically. To illustrate this type of loop, we'll build a loop that checks if the user is online. Let's say they try to submit an update for a document, but the device does not have reception or internet. You can run a while loop that checks if the device is online, add a short delay, check again, and keep looping until the user or the device is reconnected. Once the device is back online, the loop ends and your action chain continues. The second type of loop is called loop over list. This runs once for every item in the list. Examples include notifications, card items, messages, or any list of documents. Essentially, you update each item in the list using the index to iterate through it. When you get to the last item in the list, the loop exits. The example we'll build together is a very common use case, marking all notifications as read. You can use loop over list to go through each one and update is read to true. This is a much better user experience than having to manually mark each notification as read. Now, before we dive into building these examples, let's quickly go over a few things to watch out for. First up, infinite loops. These happen most often with while loops, especially when your condition never changes. If you're updating a document and checking that same value in your condition, you might accidentally trap your app in a loop that never ends. Always make sure conditions can change and add a delay if needed. If you're using loops in a backend flow, be careful about list sizes. Large loops can cause function timeouts or exceed Firebase write limits if you're using Firebase. If you're looping through dozens or hundreds of items, consider batching or paginating those actions. All right, now that we've covered the concepts and the potential issues, let's hop into FlutterFlow and build out both of these examples live together. We'll do one while loop to check for internet connection and one loop over list to mark all notifications as read. Let's get started. Okay, so let's get started setting up our while loop. Now, in order for this to work, we're going to need two things. We're going to need a page state variable that we can use to determine if we should stay or exit the loop. And the other thing we're going to need is just a very simple custom action to check if our device currently has internet or not. Now, our custom action is here. It's very straightforward. It returns a Boolean, and I'll leave a link in the description below so you can copy and paste this into your own project if you want to use it. So let's go ahead and set up this screen. You can see we already have a button here, and that's pretty much it. So let's go ahead and set this up. We're gonna need a page state variable. Now let's go ahead and call this is not online, okay? And we're gonna have this be a Boolean. And initially, we'll go ahead and set this to true. Okay, this is so we can start the loop and have it not exit right away. So let's go ahead and set up here. We'll add a loop. We'll give it the page state. It's not online. And now here you can see again, it keeps repeating as long as it's true. That's why initially you were setting the is not online to true. Otherwise the loop won't start. Okay. So let's go ahead and go here and then we'll run our custom action. this is going to return either a true or false. One caveat here, though, is that when we add or update now our page state, we are going to need to flip this. So let's set the value. We'll go action output and connect. But in order for this to work for us correctly, we actually need to flip the output of the custom action. And then the last thing we'll do here is just add a little wait period. Now, for our purposes here, we'll use a fairly short delay, maybe 2 seconds, 2000 milliseconds. But if you're using this in practice, I would say maybe like every 30 seconds or a minute, depending on how long you think or how quickly you want to keep checking this internet connection. Okay, so we have our loop set up. As a reminder, we're using our page state variable. We've got our custom action that's checking if we have internet. Then we're setting the page state with the output from our custom action. And then we're waiting for a couple of seconds. Okay, so that is already it in terms of setup. Let's go ahead and just restart our local run. And then we're also going to need to start up the dev tools. Okay. Oh, okay. We crashed. Let's go ahead and just restart this. No problem. Okay, and we're back. Our local run has restarted. Let's go ahead and boot up here our dev tools so we can see what's happening with our local states. And let's check out our while loop. So we have here check for internet. You can see is not online. That's our page state. Initially is true. And now if I click check for internet, this should flip to false pretty quickly because right now we're connected. Let's go ahead and try that out. False, boom, and it stopped running the loop. So now let's turn off our Wi-Fi. We'll make sure the phone is disconnected as well. And let's click here. So again, we say is not online true. And now we're clicking here. And you can see it's continuing to loop, loop, loop. So now this is checking every 2 seconds if we're online or not. So now I'm going to turn on the Wi-Fi again. It's now on. And we've exited the loop. There we go. So that is your while condition loop to check if your device is online or not. So next thing we'll do is look over the loop or over list. So here what we want to do is have this functionality for mark all as read. So I've set up a basic UI here. It's very straightforward. We just have a list view. I've created a local state variable that uses notification list items. So it's very straightforward. We just have a notification name and a Boolean for is read. Now, I don't have a database connected to this. So what I did is just set up essentially a data type, and then we have an app state with a list of these data types. So here's our UI. We have our notifications. We have a green dot if it's not red, so if these are new notifications. And then we have a button for marking all as read. So let's go ahead and just take a look at what this looks like. So here is our local run and nothing is set up. So what if we wanted to mark all of these as read? So let's go here. Let's open our action, do on tap. We'll add a loop. So now we're gonna say over list. Our list is going to be, in this case, our app state notification list. Okay. We're gonna do start index is gonna be 0. And then end index is going to be here, our notification list and number of items. Okay. Step size 1. All right. And now we're going to need to update the items as we iterate through them. So let's go ahead and say update page state, or actually app state. Let's go ahead and get our notifications list. And then we'll say update item at index. And the way that we're going to get the index here is from our loop action. Go ahead and say index in list. Okay. So, oh, what happened here? We jumped. Let's just go open this back up. So let's go ahead and say update fields, because we don't necessarily want to update the whole thing, but we do want to toggle the is red boolean. We'll set value. Well, we can toggle it, or we can set value and we'll set it as true. Okay. So now this should loop through and update. And when it gets to the end of this list, it'll exit the loop. So let's go ahead and refresh this. And let's take a look. Now, hopefully this will reload for us without crashing. And no, it crashed again. Okay, and we're back. So let's go ahead and go over to our loop over list. And let's click mark all as red. And there you go. So now you can see we've marked them as red. So this is obviously a very basic example, and you'd probably want to do this with a backend item, like with your database. But this is how you would set up your looping over list. I hope you were able to get some value from this guide. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments how you plan to use these new loop features in your app. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.